And we're live with another episode of BS Busters. I'm joined by Kenoshi. Kenoshi, introduce yourself.
I'm Kenoshi Abominito. Glad to be here on another one of these BS Busters.
Yes, and it's me, Mr. Red Fox. No, go ahead.
And Nintendo doesn't care about their gold games anymore, it seems like.
I guess they don't. Sorry. Excuse me. This is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor BS Busters. We have a pretty decent cast tonight, so I'm glad everyone is here. So we have quite a few topics to cover, most of which should be fairly interesting. Let me go over some of our topics that we have. We're going to be talking about Sega's class action lawsuit against their rigged arcade machines. We're going to talk about Nintendo's Switch Online's announced games for their Nintendo Online, the Super NES picks. Netflix going into gaming. The Switch OLED, who is this exactly for? We covered a little bit of this in a previous cast, but I think we really should do a deep dive into who the OLED is for, because there's been a lot of misconception that people have about this hardware revision, and that's it. Unpopular opinions. Then we'll wrap things up, and we may possibly be joined by Joel. Ryder Moonstar later on. So let's dive into it. I guess we can start with, what do you want to start with, Kenoshi? What topic is you want to dive into first?
Let's start with the OLED model.
All right. You go ahead.
This is clearly for people who just use their Switch as a handheld, but don't want a Switch Lite. Because it doesn't really do anyone any good who doesn't, who uses their Switch in dock mode.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, if you use the Switch in docked mode, you have no reason to own this console. The OLED.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what to say. Yeah, I think from what I've been able to see, the HD OLED Switch pretty much is it's designed to be. It looks like it's designed to appeal to people. And this is just my own observation. I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong, but it looks like it's designed to appeal to people to two groups of people. People who have a base model Switch and primarily use it in handheld mode, and they're tired of the how it throttles down when you're playing certain games in handheld mode. They don't want to make that sacrifice. Or those group of people who don't own a Switch and were holding off and saying, I'm going to wait until they make a better handheld model.
Yeah. And
the Switch Lite was okay, that's too much of a sacrifice, so I'll go with the Switch OLED. I'm guessing that's who the OLED is for, because from what I've seen of the OLED, for people who if you already have a high definition TV, the benefits of the OLED don't really come into play if you already have a high definition TV. Like you're already getting you already have great sound, you already have a better screen than what's on the OLED on your television. So it's not an upgrade for you. But if you're primarily using your Switch as a handheld, OLED is great. Like if you have a Switch Lite and you want to upgrade from a Switch Lite to like a beefier, better Switch, OLED is perfect for people like that. Or if you have a base model Switch that you're primarily using as a handheld and you're like, I'm tired of certain games just not really looking that good in handheld mode. Because the thing is, the Switch has a great screen, but I can tell you this as someone who is like taking it to the movie theater with me when I was waiting to watch movies and playing it in the dark. The Switch's screen is not the best in dark places, and like watching certain things is kind of difficult. So I'm guessing the OLED screen would be a better, like it's like for people who are primarily using it as a handheld, it seems like it would be a better deal. And for $50 more, that's not a lot. $50 more, you get a ton of little bennies if you're primarily using it as handhelds. And I don't have any data to support this. I'm just it just makes sense to me, just anecdotally. I'm guessing that most people who own the Switch are using it, like I'm guessing that maybe by 60, 66, maybe 65% of the people who are 2/3 are probably using it primarily as a handheld than as a console hybrid or even a console. So, like, I'm guessing that's the audience they're going for. Your thoughts, Joel? Oh, before you give your thoughts, introduce yourself.
No problem. If anything, I was having a time trying to get here for a moment.
No, it's okay.
Bells of all ages, I'm Joy Lemon Star. Welcome to the BS Busters movie podcast. And if anything, I'm going to say this right now. This is for those fancy pantsers that would like to try to show off a little bit more and like to have something a little bit brighter, a little louder, and try to have something that's a little more sharper in contrast to what they had before.
Yeah, well, like I said, the Switch OLED seems like it is more geared towards people who are playing it in handheld mode. Because, you keep on seeing these commercials for the Switch, or at least I do. And people are like outside, playing it outside. I've tried to play the Switch outside. If you're someplace that's very bright, like outside in the sun.
That's also one of the other things I was gonna say. That if anything, this is also for those people that are handhelders. That, as much as I hate to say it, and I'm gonna say this until I've turned blue in the face, which probably was gonna happen a lot more than I like. Thank you, OLED. The Switch may be a hybrid, but it is not the best of handheld.
Well, it isn't.
Combined.
It isn't. Like anytime you have a hybrid, you're going to have to sacrifice some things in order to get other things, and vice versa. Like personally, I prefer dedicated hardware for things. Like I like games that are on a handheld and only on a handheld because the limitations means that other things have to be done. And certain games really like they should be on a console because the nature of the game, like there's certain things that have to be there in order for it to work. Case in point, there are games that came out in like the late 80s, early 90s on the NES that were really ambitious, that had they been on the SNES versus the NES probably would have been better because the SNES had more processing power and you had bigger cartridges. You could make bigger, better worlds for certain types of games. And the hardware limitations of the NES kind of held it back a little bit. So it's like sometimes it's not necessarily a good thing to put things on hardware where you have to make certain sacrifices in order to get things to go well. So, and vice versa. There's some games where the best version of a game, of a multiplat, might be on handheld. For example, what's it called? Daikatana. Daikatana is, most people will tell you that game is not very good, but really a really good version of that game is on the Game Boy Color. Hardware limitations made that into a better gameplay experience. Another thing, I prefer Metroid 2: Samus Returns for the Game Boy and Link's Awakening for the Game Boy Color versus the remakes that were done on better hardware. So, just more power doesn't necessarily mean you get a better game. But also, hardware limitations don't necessarily mean that you're always going to get a better game either. It's pretty much a case-by-case basis. But, with the Switch, you're sacrificing, there's a sacrifice that has to be made because it's not a dedicated console. And the game, certain games, the system throttles itself down when you're playing it handheld mode. And for certain games, like simplistic games or games that don't use a lot of processing power, it's not a big deal. But for games that are CPU, GPU heavy, like your Breath of the Wilds, your Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I have tried to play those games in handheld mode. Let me tell you something. Not worth it. Not worth it at all. It's no, I'll just wait till I get home. Which, for me, kind of defeats the purpose of having a hybrid console that you can take on the go, because, the whole point is that you can play your games anytime you want to. So why should I have to take this massive performance hit just to play my games when I have some extra time? Like, I'm at the movie theater, the movie doesn't start for 20 minutes, so I pull out my Switch out of my merce, my satchel, my man purse. I'm like, yeah, I'll just play my Switch for 10, 15 minutes. Pfft, no. Not worth it.
I was going to say that if anything, sometimes the performance of the system can be a bother, but if I remember right, they usually try to make it so it performs constantly at a certain speed, even in handheld.
Oh, it does for certain. However, no, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that though, if anything, your mileage may vary depending on the game for that kind of process.
Well, yeah,
if I remember right.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. For games that are more simplistic or use less, that aren't CPU or GPU heavy, it's not an issue. You're going from 1080p to 720p. You're going from 1080p 60 to 720p 30, which isn't that big of a deal for certain games. Issue is when you have games that are very resource intensive, and when that happens, that downgrade, that throttling down.
So if anything, this is going to get on a personal note for me, since if anything, I had to look at some videos in order to find out about this myself. How in the no nebula is there beep and lag on RPG games even when it's docked and it's supposed to be one of the biggest games of the generation?
And what game is that? What game? What game was that?
It's our least favorite that we both gave up on.
What, Pokemon?
Yeah.
Oh no, that was just shit optimization. They didn't optimize that game for the Switch. Because can't you? You can look at Pokemon Sword and Shield and tell that a lot of corners were cut to get that game to be on that system. They cut the decks. The game feels very empty. You would think, okay, we're going to put a full Pokemon game on a console or a console hybrid. So we're going to go balls to the wall. This is going to be the biggest Pokemon ever. That game, there are Pokemon from, Pokemon Gen 2. Pokemon Gold and Silver is bigger in terms of scope and Pokemon than Pokemon Sword and Shield. And that game is much smaller. So that tells you something. Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing that bugs me the most. That's something that has such a big budget of sorts, and it's supposed to be one of the big flagships, has such low graphical quality, even when docked.
Well, it looks like Pokemon Sword and Shield looks like a up-res 3DS game. It looks like they took the same engine from the 3DS and combined it with the engine from Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, and then said, "Okay, we're going to make this into a Pokemon game." But I mean, this is the Pokemon. This is what the Pokemon Company does. They love taking, doing the bare minimum because their fans let them get away with doing the bare minimum. They don't hold them. Well, you're better than this. No, we'll take it. Here, let me bend over and spread my cheeks. You don't have to do anything. Just do it. So, you know, if you're fans, if fans of a product never expect them to be better and don't hold them to task when they start slacking, this is what you get. Bare minimum. Okay, if a company knows they can do the bare minimum and still get your money, they have no incentive to do better. Okay? That's just the way it is. All right? Okay, that's the Pokemon Company in a nutshell. If you don't, if you're a Pokemon fan, but you're not happy with how the Pokemon games have been over the last 2 or 3 iterations or more, the reason why is because like most of their customers are perfectly okay with the bare minimum. Okay, they buy it anyway, even if it is of inferior quality. They don't care. Sad but true. You know, Kenoshi. Any other thoughts about OLED? Anyone have anything else they want to say about OLED? Any other issues about the OLED that they want to get off their chests?
One thing that I'm gonna at least ask about the OLED, or rather OLED, how much of a problem do you think screen burn is going to be?
I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because the Switch is pretty good about self-regulating the screen brightness. So if you don't play the Switch for a certain amount of time, it'll throttle down the imaging, so you're not going to get screen burn. So, you know, it's pretty good about that. Matter of fact, sometimes too it's detriment because, like, if you're like, man, I got to go to the bathroom, you put your game down, or even if you're playing it docked, you're like, man, I got to go to the bathroom. Don't be in the bathroom for too long, because if you're in there for too long, the shit'll go to sleep. Like, what the fuck, man? I was in a boss fight. Don't do that.
I was about to say. Thankfully, that sentence customizable.
It is, but even with the customization, it's still like even if you put it at its highest setting, it's still after a while will dim the screen and prevent burn-in. So I mean, it's relatively competent, you know.
Yeah, I at least was thinking that if somebody has a super bright screen, it's gonna hurt the screen eventually if they're not careful, but at least I could say that's one of the only other issues I know the OLED's gonna be even into eventually.
I mean, I don't think people are gonna care either way. Like I said, I think Nintendo, here's what I think. I don't have any evidence to support this, but it just makes sense business-wise. I think Nintendo is gonna phase out the base Switch, and the OLED is gonna be the new Switch model. And I know people are going to be like, well, how could they? Look, companies do hardware revisions because they want to make more money, all right? They want to either lower costs or sell more product.
I was going to say that, if anything, the sell more product is going to be what I feel like it's going to feel like more when all said is done, but if there's still going to be the 350 versus 300 difference, then I'm going to be saying that the OLED I've failed to replace and it's still around for a year.
Not really. I mean, personally, like I said, I think what they're going to do is I think they're going to phase out the base model Switch. The OLED's going to take the place of the base model Switch, and then you'll have the Switch Lite. So you'll have the $199 model and then the $350 model. Because it makes sense, because functionally, internally, the Switch OLED, aside from the better speakers and the better screen, is functionally hardware-wise, CPU and GPU-wise, it's the same as the base Switch. So they're not really spending more money to make that. Those component parts. And so, you know, I mean, it costs them, you know, they can sell the LED for more. Plus, you know, Nintendo sells their hardware so that they can sell you their software. And the Switch has a pretty good hardware attachment rate. Maybe not the highest Nintendo has had, but pretty good. So that's what they're going for. In my humble opinion.
Yeah. So as I said, if we don't see the big change to just seeing the OLED be alone in a year, I'm gonna say that the placement didn't fully go as planned.
I mean, like, you know how Nintendo is. They're not just going to come out and say it. Like how they slowly phased away the 3DS, slowly phased away the Wii, slowly phased away the Wii U. I think they're just going to stop making the base models, and then over time it'll just be taken over by the... Because right now, if you include the base model, there's 3 SKUs. There's no reason for Nintendo to make 3 SKUs of the Switch when they could just make 2. So, especially if the OLED takes off, which it probably will, it'll probably take off like gangbusters. So they have no incentive to not, you know, if it takes off and it sells reasonably well, you know, kind of like towards the end of the life cycle, the Game Boy Advance was replaced with the Game Boy SP. Now, personally, I like the Game Boy Advance over the SP. I know a lot of people. The SP has a backlight. I played my games I played my games in a well-lit room.
Not very good.
What?
That backlight was not very good.
Yeah, but it was there. It was there, and that was the big selling point. I was like, I already have like 2 Game Boy Advances. Why would I buy a Game Boy SP just because it has a backlight? Like, I didn't see the point. I didn't like the form factor. The clamshell form factor didn't really do anything for me for the Game Boy SP. I liked my Game Boys, you know, like a Game Boy. But some people like the SP. But, you know, like, I'm not really into buying hardware revisions of shit that I already own. Some people, they really like doing that shit. I am not one of those people. Like, once I own something, I own it. I'm not going to buy multiple versions of the shit or anything like that.
For me, that's your mileage may vary moments, because if you were a person that had a Game Boy Advance, then the Game Boy Advance that had a backlight with it.
Yeah, the SP.
Godsend.
Well, it depends. Like for me, the lack of a backlight never bothered me with the Game Boy because I just played my games in a well-lit room. Like, I had a book light attached to it and watched it.
Okay.
So it didn't bother me. I'm just saying, I understand there are people who that bothered them, so they got a Game Boy SP because of the backlight. But for me, for home consoles, I never buy hardware revisions for Nintendo home consoles. Never have, never will. So that shit ain't happening. Like when they did the revision of the NES, the top loader. Never owned a top loader. Don't want a top loader. The hardware revision for the SNES, never had that. The hardware revision for the there was no hardware revision for the N64 or the GameCube. The Wii Mini. The Wii Mini can go fuck itself. Like, why the fuck would I?
Oh, are you talking about the
Wii Mini?
the small SNES, the top loader?
You mean the top? Well, the top loader was for the
Top loader.
NES.
the top loader was for the NES. It was the one that it was the hardware revision like made in the late 80s, early 90s for the NES because Nintendo wanted to wring whatever they wanted to milk that dry, dusty udder of the they wanted to milk that dry, dusty, powdered milk given cow of the NES at that point.
I was gonna make the joke that we haven't seen anything get milked that dry
No, the Wii.
dry for at least 2 years.
The Wii and the Game Boy. The Wii and the Game Boy.
Did the top loader make the SNES backwards compatible? Is that what?
No. The top loader was the NES that they put in America, where you could basically you could put your NES cartridges in the top like the SNES, but instead of the Super Nintendo, it's just for the NES. It's called the top loader. Okay. Top loader. The top loader seemed like it was a hardware revision, but it sucked because basically the top loader had really bad heat sinks inside of it. So if you played a game for too long, it would get too hot. It could start fires. Like everyone I know who has a top loader, who's a retro collector, has had to give the thing to an electrician or someone who knows welding to put in new heat sinks and shit and new transistors and conductors so that the shit doesn't burn up. Top loader is a terrible hardware revision. Just god awful. And then there's the SNES hardware revision, which just made it smaller and had like smaller components and a smaller case, so made the case smaller and also made the heat harder to diffuse. The N64, because it sold poorly, did not have a hardware revision. Neither did the GameCube. Neither of those two consoles had great hardware revisions. Although the N64 didn't sell poorly, but compared to previous Nintendo consoles, it did. And the GameCube it didn't sell enough for there to be a hardware revision. Although you could technically say the Wii the Wii was a GameCube hardware revision. I love the Wii, but the Wii Mini can go fuck itself. The Wii Mini was just a waste of time. It's like, yeah, I want a Nintendo Wii that doesn't have online capabilities and can't play GameCube games. Yeah. So let me get this straight. A Wii Mini that comes with Mario Kart Wii, but no online capability. That's just stupid.
That's more of a local system.
But the thing is, there were legitimately good online games for the Wii. There were legitimately good online games for the Wii. Like, people are like, oh, the Wii had terrible online. That's if you didn't have the Ethernet cord. But if you had the Ethernet jack that you could get, a lot of those online games were good. Like the Conduit 2, those had great online. GoldenEye 007 had pretty good online. So I don't want to hear that shit. And yes, I'm even going to include Smash Brothers Brawl, even though people like to talk about that game having shit online. But I had fun with it. But then again, that is my favorite Smash Brothers game, so I'm biased. I'm biased against Brawl. Or I'm biased in its favor, not biased against it in a negative, pejorative statement. But anyway, guess we can keep it moving. I think we've exhausted the Switch OLED, which brings us to what people are calling the real Switch Pro, the real Slim Shady. Please stand up. Please stand up. The Steam Deck. Now, before anyone says anything, they're like, how could you say that? Look. I have read multiple reports about the Steam Deck because I like to do my research from developers who are working with the Steam Deck. And from what I've heard, the Steam Deck, people are comparing it to the Switch. I think, from what I've heard from read from reports, that is a false dichotomy comparison. Really, you should compare the Steam Deck to a Super Wii U gamepad.
I was about to say, I know the screen is not touch compatible.
No, it is a touch screen. It is a touch screen. So basically, if you are someone like me who loved the Wii U and were like, man, I wish Nintendo had doubled down on the Wii U instead of neutering it and cutting its balls and dick off with the Switch, then this is the device for you. If you're like that, if you're like me and you're like, man, I wish the Switch was like a Super Wii U instead of a neutered Switch, a neutered Wii U, then here you go, folks, a Super Wii U. Except you don't have to rebuy all your games at $60 a pop, because they change formats from cartridges to discs. You're not being paid. You don't have to pay for shit you already own all over again. Because you can literally migrate your entire fucking library from Steam over to this device.
Granted that it doesn't have the same ease of use, but still, you could do that.
No, that's pretty damn easy. All you have to do is sign into your Steam account, and boom, you have access to. It's running Proton, which, to be fair, Proton is not backwards compatible with every Steam game because a lot of Steam games have anti-cheat, and Proton is Linux-based and considered by some programs as being a cheat device. But with that being said, all you have to do is sign into your thing. You can play a lot of games. And hey, if you don't want to have Linux on there, guess the fuck what? If you don't want to play, you can wipe the hard drive and put a new OS on there if you want to. You can put Windows. You can put a kernel of Linux on there. The choice is yours. That's fucking amazing. And you can put Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, all your streaming on there too. So basically, all the cool shit you miss about the Wii U that the Switch doesn't do anymore because Nintendo got scared, you can do on this device. Yeah. Plus, you can migrate your entire library. You don't have to fucking pay for your games again at full price. It's amazing. Now, if Steam was like, "Hey, you can migrate your games, but you're gonna have to pay. You have to pay full market price all over again," I'd say, "Fuck you," and I wouldn't have pre-ordered it.
Well, I'm not surprised.
I mean, that's a deal breaker for me. That's why I've gotten none of the, except for like, what was the one game? Tokyo Mirage Session. I got the re-release on the Switch, but that's because they added new content that wasn't in the original base game. But aside from that, that's a deal breaker for me. Selling me something I already own all over again for full market price, that is a hard pass for me.
I was gonna say, if it had zero changes, I could at least say you shouldn't even look at it.
No, even then, like, even with changes, if you're selling it to me at full market price for shit that it's functionally the same. Like, the changes are minor at best. I'm like, no. No. Go fuck yourself. Hence why I didn't get Super Mario Brothers U on the Switch. I didn't get Mario Kart 8 on the Switch. Because there's just a certain point where I'm just like, no. You fucked me once up the pooter. You're not doing it twice. Um, but that's
yeah.
no. Go ahead, Kenoshi.
It's kind of disappointing that the Switch took a lot of steps back.
From the Wii U. Yeah. Because the Wii U had, like, they were like, okay, you can migrate your Wii games to the Wii U. And there was like a $5 upcharge for some of the games. Like, between, like, $1 to $5. I don't mind that. I want Nintendo to make some money. I don't want it just to be like, well, fuck you. You just pay whatever you want to. I'm not begrudging a company making money. But if you're going to fuck me over by charging me full market price for something I already paid full market price for the first time, plus season pass and all the extra bennies, that's just greedy. That's not you making a profit. That's just you. That's you taking advantage of people. And people keep on forgetting that capitalism is an adversarial relationship. These people aren't your friends. Okay, they want your money. With the company wants to make your money with as little overhead on their part as possible. And you as the consumer want to spend as little of your money while getting as much value out of what you spent as possible. And the happy medium between those two extremes is the purchase, or it should be. But, you know, it doesn't always work out that way. But, yeah. I wasn't cool with that. I was like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me with a lot of games. I'm like, you know, and I know some people be like, well, you Xbox gamers do the same thing. Actually, I don't. I didn't buy a whole bunch of new shit when I didn't rebuy a whole bunch of shit when I got my Xbox. I did not.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, especially with stuff like Game Pass, and not to mention the Xbox Series X. If you had a whole bunch of Xbox games, you could still play that on your console. So, I mean, remember when we were cursing the other companies for not having backwards compatibility and praising Nintendo for having backwards compatibility? Yeah, it seems like the shoe's on the other foot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the shit didn't.
Gotta be consistent. You know,
the shit didn't work out for me because I was like, I'm not playing that game, and I stand by that. I still am not playing that game. I'm like, you know what? You're not. You ain't fucking me up the pooter. I don't care who you are. So, but that's just me. I know some people are going to get mad at me when they hear that. I don't really care, but I don't really care if people don't like that. But that's my own personal opinion. So, anyway. I'm one of those people. I mean, I don't normally stick to my guns with everything, but that was the thing where I was just like, you know what, I'm not playing that game with these people. I am not, like, I'm not buying shit I've already bought multiple times at full price. I'm not. Now if you're talking about if you're talking about something that's like if you're selling me like a digital version of a game that is normally like if you're talking like virtual console where they're selling like old SNES games for like 5, 10, 15 bucks, I don't care about that. That's a good deal. But if you're selling me shit at like if Nintendo opened up a virtual console type thing that was on the Switch for GameCube games, and they were selling GameCube games at like $60 a pop, I wouldn't get it. I'd be like, nah, I'm good. That's too expensive.
Yeah, it's crazy. And also, I don't see anybody else trying this because I think people are just like, yeah, you're full of shit. Because I noticed Sony's like in 2K, it's like let's raise the prices of games.
Yeah, they need to be $70. Yeah,
I'd be fine with raising games to at least like $70 or $80 if I get everything.
Yeah,
out of the gate.
I agree with you.
Sell me a season pass. You don't sell me a pre-order of the season pass like day before the game even comes out. Like, these companies gotta stop doing that. That's infuriating. So you come out with a game, you announce a game. A couple months later, before the game comes out, oh, you can also pre-purchase the season pass for another $40-$50.
Yeah, that's where I'm like, okay. Like, the thing that gets me is, okay, you sell me a game, right? A game that's $60. Then you're gonna nickel and dime me with, fucking microtransactions for a game that I already paid full price for. Like, I mean, I can understand you doing microtransactions if a game is free to play, or like if you have an online looter shooter that's like $20, right? It's $20, and there's a lot of production value going in. These people have to get paid for making all this content. I'm not going to begrudge them having microtransactions, but if you're charging AAA money, but then you want to fuck people over with all these other prices, I'm not cool with that. That bothers me. But
yeah. It's like, okay, so, at least people to believe, so you chop portions of the game out before release so that you could sell another part of the game at premium. Okay.
Which is what they did.
That's real nice, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what EA did with that Mass Effect 3 Pro 3 and DLC, because it was on the disc. It was supposed to be there, and they chopped it out so they could sell it to you later on as DLC. I mean, really, even the Pokemon company did it. Like, they're like, well, we have all this extra content that's coming in the expansion. You guys cut base content out so you could sell it to dumbasses later, because they're Pokemaniacs. Literally Pokemaniacs, and they'll buy the shit anyway.
That's a worse cut than just having the game sold back to you at the base price that it started at.
No, but I'm talking about bad gaming things that companies do. It started as selling you full price, and then for shit that you already paid the previous generation for, which they all do it. Nintendo's done it, but Nintendo used to be good about it. Like, Super Mario All-Stars were all the original NES games for like $50-$60. The original Mario games, including Lost Levels, which was never released in North America. That was a pretty good deal, because those games back in the day were like $29, $39 a pop. So you basically got, Mario Lost Levels, Super Mario 1, 2, 3, and then the re-revision of Super Mario Brothers All-Stars, you got Super Mario World 2. So that's 5 games. Let's use the last one, which are the 5 games. You get 5 games. Each of those were between $30 to $40 a pop, except Super Mario World, which for as a pack-in game, it came with the system, but a lot of the later versions of the SNES, that wasn't the pack-in game. There were other pack-in games. So by itself, it was like $50. You're looking at like a $200, $300, let's say $250 $250 value for like $50-$60. That's a pretty good deal back in the day. But I mean, now they're like, hey, we're re-releasing this game. Okay, cool. What's with it? Shit, that should have been in the base game. What? For $60? No. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. But the Pokemon company's really been doing this. They've been bad about doing this shit. They've been doing this shit for years. Making shit worse. Constantly making shit worse. How are you going to re-release something and make it worse than the base model? That don't make no sense. Or, to use proper grammar and enunciation, that makes virtually no sense. But anyway, let's keep it moving. Next topic. I think we've harped long enough on companies screwing people over. Oh, no, we didn't, because we got to talk about Sega Arcade Machine. Class action lawsuit against Sega.
Wait a second. You said Stadia?
No, Sega. Sega. As we all know, Sega got partnered with Sammy. And Sammy makes like pachinko machines and gambling machines and shit like that. So Sega, because Sega just can't stop fucking up. That's their MO. Yeah, we fuck up. We're Sega. Sega.
I thought that was someone else's.
No, Sega's there too. Sega is in trouble because Sega is being sued in a class action lawsuit because it's alleged that they are that their arcade machines, specifically their Keymaster arcade machines. You've probably gone to a mall and seen the Keymaster arcade machines. Those are the arcade machines where like you press a button at a certain time and it lands on a thing and you might be able to win that thing. You know, you can get iPhones and Switches and Android phones and shit like that. Well, the Keymaster, it's alleged that the Keymaster is rigged. That you would have to pay. You would have to play between 1,000 to 2,000 times in order to win any of the substantial prizes. So, what are your guys' thoughts on the shocking allegation that Sega's arcade machines, their gambling arcade machines, are rigged? That they boast and say are skill-based are actually odds-based.
I was gonna say, are you trying to pull a Konami?
Rigged, no surprise, but
yeah, no shit.
you know that damn claw machine. They're cheat. They cheat you.
Yeah, they do, because basically you have to play a certain amount of games, and the tensile strength of the claw goes up as the more games you play. Guaranteeing you're not gonna win.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, Sega's trying to pull a Capcom, a Capcom or Ubisoft. I'm not sure.
I would say more Konami. It's more Konami, yeah, because Konami, their big thing are the pachinko machines, or it used to be their pachinko machines. I don't know if they're still really into it. I don't know. But I mean, this doesn't surprise me. It's sad, but it doesn't surprise me. It's one of those things. I'm not surprised that this would be a thing because you are essentially gambling when you do shit like that. Like, because the thing is, if these things were really skill based, because I remember when I was a kid, there was like an arcade. Like I would spend the summer with my grandparents, and one of my grandparents' family friends was this guy who used to cut my hair, and he owned a strip mall. Actually, he owned several strip malls, but he was also owned a barbershop at his main strip mall. And there was an arcade, a shady ass arcade at the end. But there were skill-based games in there, like skill-based claw games and like penny arcade games. And if you really knew what you were doing, you could you could get, like, not every time, but like almost every, like 1 out of 3 times you could get something. You know, you get a decent prize, a mid-tier prize, or a high-tier prize. Like, you can tell when an arcade machine is rigged because they have these fabulous prizes that no one ever wins. You know?
I was gonna say, I've seen those before. Let me just say this. It's a pain in the rear end looking at those, even when you know how rigged it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a switch in one of those kind of machines.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, and you notice how no one ever wins that shit. It's like that McDonald's Monopoly
The
shit.
Monopoly game.
You never hear about anyone ever winning that shit.
Well,
You notice that?
That's
You
why
have
they
to
quit.
travel to-
I think that's why they quit doing it, because people kept cheating.
No, they quit doing it because it was rigged that only certain employees of the place would win it, and that's why you never heard about anyone winning it, so that they wouldn't have to do a payout. It was the whole thing was rigged from the start. It's like Fallout New Vegas. The game was rigged from the beginning.
Well, it's like with the machine with all the Nintendo Switches, they want to pay. They want to be able to pay for all of that stuff, so they trick you into playing it, and then when they've paid for all of it, they're like, okay, we'll let a couple people win.
No one ever wins. Like, basically, from what I've seen of the allegation, this is from the manual that comes with those machines. They are set up so that you would have to play 2,000 matches in order to win even one of the mid-tier prizes. So basically, you get 2 games for $1. You would have to spend $1,000 to win one thing.
To get anywhere close to that?
Yes. That is far more than even a Switch.
To try to win it. I'd rather buy a Nintendo Switch than try to win it in an arcade machine.
Yeah, you could get 2 Switch OLEDs and some games for the amount of money that it would take in order to win a base model Switch from one of these machines. Like, and who the fuck is going to one of these machines with $1,000 and just plugging it in there over and over again? That makes no sense. This shit is designed to appeal to gamblers. If you're one of those people who's like, yeah, I'm gonna get something. You play the lotto, you do scratch offs, all that shit. This shit is designed to fuck with you. And Sega's getting sued for it, so, you know, Sega. I don't know what to say. I don't know.
Just don't screw a bunch of people out of money, I guess.
I mean, it's a business. They're trying to make money. You know, I mean,
Or make the algorithm a little more fair. I mean, there's always going to be there. The fact is these machines are always going to be rigged. But just make the rigging just a slightly, slightly fair. Because I know casinos have to, the way their machines work, their algorithm has to be in such a way that it has to pay out at some point.
Yeah, but it's still, the odds are still in the favor of the house, because casinos. Here's what casinos will do: if they have a machine that hits a jackpot, they shut off the machine and they keep people from using it, because basically their machines are odds based too. Like let's say it's one of those one-armed bandits. I forgot the exact name for it, but slot machine. If it's a slot machine, it's like there has to be maybe like 850 pulls on that slot machine before the odds go up enough to where someone can win a jackpot. And once that jackpot has been hit, they will take that machine out of play so that people can't keep on playing it and winning money. So even the casinos, and if a casino is particularly shady, they'll be like, oh, well, this machine was broken, that's why you won, so you don't get anything. Or they'll give you far below what the jackpot is because they want you to fucking go away.
Say, I thought that I thought it would be hard to get the jackpot in the first place, and it won't happen again for about another cycle of that, which will probably be about 5,000 pulls.
I I mean, it depends on what the odds rate are, but those slot machines are built in such a way that, like, they expect that a certain amount of people are going to pull the slot machine in order to get to a certain point so that they can sit there and say, well, so then there's a certain pullout. But that's the shit we got to deal with, folks. They are always, listen, okay? Businesses, these people are businesses, and they have an adversarial relationship with you. They want your money, and they want to do the least amount of shit to get it. And they don't care, okay, how they get it. They just go, they go and get it one way or another. But, anyway, yeah, Sega Sammy, fucked up. I don't know what to say.
As I said, they're pulling a Konami.
I mean, it's not quite as bad as Konami, because Konami is just straight up selling pachinko machines. I know, because I went on a cruise, and like, I was waiting to watch a comedy show for one of my favorite comedians who happened to be on the cruise, and I was like, the show didn't start for another 30 minutes, and I'd just eaten dinner, but the show didn't start for another 30 minutes. I was like, shit, I gotta kill some time. So I'm sitting down, and I'm looking at this digital slot machine, and I'm like, this is interesting. And it says, this is made by Konami. And I was like, wait a second. And I looked at every single electronic slot machine that was there. Guess who made all of them?
The K.
Konami.
Konami?
Konami.
Why am I not surprised?
I thought they sold their machines in just Japan.
Oh no. Konami has branched out. Their ability to fucking make money by selling people
Their childhoods.
No, selling people shit they don't need. Selling people, preying on people's gamblers' weakness, addiction to gambling is amazing, actually. I'm kind of mad that I didn't put any money into it, because, I mean, look, there's always going to be some sucker who's thinking, well, this next one will make me some money, and they continuously go into debt, hoping that they'll get the next thing.
I worked second shift at the casino. I saw, at midnight when I was getting ready to go home, I saw people sitting at the machines at midnight, wee hours of the night.
Oh yeah.
Trying to get lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, damn you.
I was gonna say, if they wanted to get lucky, they're better off trying to seduce a lady of the night.
Yeah, but you're not really seducing a lady of the night. You're paying them so that they'll go away once the deed is done.
Yep.
You're paying them to leave.
Yeah.
But
you want to pay them, or else their pimps will have you clapped.
Or they might, pull out a razor and cut your ass themselves.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a hard job. I mean, because I don't care how hard you might think your job is. I'm pretty sure you don't have to suck a dick. or have someone hemming and hawing on top of you, and you have to act like they're actually doing some shit when they ain't doing shit. So I'm reasonably certain that's a tough job, and I couldn't do it. Like if someone said, "Hey, man, you gotta sleep with somebody," I can't do it. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. I have no want to do it. But anyway. So anyway, which brings me to the final topic, which is video game movie adaptations. I would argue that none of them are good.
I brought this up. I know I brought this up, and I was about to say that your mileage may vary, but so far, the latest movies have been well, they're not box office punches, but they are definitely higher than Super Mario Brothers, the movie that was on alcohol.
Yeah, but I don't think that movie was that bad. Hear me out, okay? If you look at the Super Mario Brothers movie as just this weird alternate reality Super Mario Brothers, it's okay. Parts of it are actually kind of fun.
I was saying that none of the movies are as terrible as the Mario Bros. Movie that was done with alcohol, but they haven't reached the movie quality for video games.
But none of them are good. Like even like the only reason Sonic the Hedgehog is watchable is because of Jim Carrey. If you took Jim Carrey out of that movie, it would be a steaming pile of dog shit too.
I'm going to make the commentary that was mostly the insert the protagonist of generics here.
No. I mean, I would say that, because, like, here's the thing. A good movie is a movie that even if a certain actor isn't there, the movie stands on its own. If you take Jim Carrey out of the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, that movie goes from being fun because of Jim Carrey to just being a generic movie with okay special effects. Mostly because Jim Carrey is channeling his Ace Ventura mask shit so hard. I was like, man, I feel like I'm back in the 90s with 90s Jim Carrey. Like, his Dr. Robotnik is so fun to watch. As a matter of fact, I'd rather watch a whole movie of just Dr. Robotnik doing shit as Jim Carrey playing Dr. Robotnik than another Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Because his Dr. Robotnik is fun to watch. Fun, kind of menacing, but mostly fun to watch. I don't really give a shit about Sonic the Hedgehog, though.
I was saying that could have been better without certain character, but
who? James Marsden, Cyclops. Cyclops. He's always going to be Cyclops to me. I don't care what anyone says. What you have against Cyclops?
It's nothing, but it seems like he was just put in there to be the audience viewpoint.
Yeah, but that's most of those fucking movies. That's the reason that almost all the modern video game movies suck, is because they assume that the audience has no familiarity with the source material. It's the reason why the Mortal Kombat movies suck. It's like, why the fuck would you create an entirely new character when you already have an audience surrogate in Johnny Cage? That makes no sense. But they did it.
Make the comment that and this is something that I bet you Mortal Kombat fans are you're gonna punch, that they did something like time travel to where you can interact with your older self or younger self. So
yeah.
The lore is already pretty woohoo.
Well, the thing is, they already have a really good template for how to make a good Mortal Kombat movie, and they fucked it up with the live action one. Because if you watch the animated Mortal Kombat movie, the one that came out, Scorpion's Revenge, your audience surrogate is Johnny Cage, who thinks this whole thing is just an elaborate movie shoot. And then he finds out halfway through, he's like, no, this shit's for real. They actually murdered that guy. You know, it's like holy shit. It's like, so why create an entirely new character to be an audience surrogate? Like, why would you do that? Like, why? How did you fuck that up? Well, and that's why that movie didn't do that well.
I was gonna make the joke that this is a game series that one of the brutalities is Johnny Cage throwing shade on his effing opponents.
Yeah, but that's what Johnny Cage does. Johnny Cage is a cocky asshole, which is what makes him fun. as a character because he's a cocky asshole. So like, you know, I mean, but that's every video game movie. It's like, why do you got like we went from like originally we had video game movies where the people were proud that they didn't give a shit about the source material whatsoever. Like we had.
They're scared of ruining the material.
Now they're afraid of the fans, but they still don't understand why people are fans in the first place. It's weird. It's totally messed up. You know, we went from the Super Mario Brothers movie and the Street Fighter movie and the Double Dragon movie where people were like, yeah, I've never played those games and I don't know anything about them. And even this goes on to even pop culture movies like Dragon Ball Evolution. The guy who directed Dragon Ball Evolution had never watched or read a Dragon Ball novel. I mean, Dragon Ball manga. Ever.
Yep.
And people are surprised that movie was so bad.
I was gonna say that I would rather watch the Super Mario Brothers than
Dragon Ball Evolution?
Even try to be near Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball Evolution is bad on so many levels. The hilarious thing is, like, Dragon Ball Evolution, by its name, is supposed to be set in the Dragon Ball timeline. So before Goku becomes OP as fuck, right? When he still actually could get his ass kicked by normal villains. And by the end of the fucking movie, he's going Super Saiyan. I'm like, this person clearly did not know their lore or material. Like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, that's the thing that bugs. That's the thing that bugs me in a sense to no end. It is a lore. It's a lore keeper's nightmare.
I was like, man, how'd you fuck that up? Well, I didn't read any of the source material. I can tell. You know, watching this, I can tell you didn't read anything that. First of all, why would you make Goku into a white guy? I'll never understand that. And second of all, never mind. I'm not even going to get into it. It was just bad. It was bad all around.
I was to say, you could probably do a cinema sense of how bad that movie is, right?
There is a cinema sense of how bad that movie is, but yeah, Dragon Ball Evolution is terrible. Dragon Ball Z. Like, that movie was so bad that Akira Toriyama went back and took his shit back in order to restart Dragon Ball, and that's how we got Dragon Ball Super, was how bad Dragon Ball Evolution was. Like, that's amazing. Like, GT is a steaming pile of dog shit. GT didn't even fuck up Dragon Ball as much as Dragon Ball Evolution did.
Was that why Dragon Ball Super exists? Because he was so upset at what they did with Dragon Ball Evolution?
Yes. That is correct.
A movie could do what a bad
I'd rather watch
series
Dragon Ball Super than Dragon Ball Evolution. But...
Dragon Ball Super isn't great, but compared to Evolution, fuck. Dragon Ball Evolution is bad.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece of shit.
Somehow GT wasn't able to do it, but Evolutions did.
Yeah, because GT is bad. GT is bad because GT was they had a chance to wipe the slates clean and start from scratch and go in a new story direction, but they kept on getting on their knees and blowing the altar of Goku. And I have nothing against. I mean, I do have something against that because really. The idea behind GT was supposed to be Gohan and Trunks, and it was supposed to be like Vegeta and Goku are like they're gone. They died. It's someone else's turn to be the heroes, and it's about sons stepping out of their father's shadow and being their own people. And that could have been awesome. We didn't get that. Instead, we got more Goku. And a shitty version of Trunks.
Yeah.
More Goku and a shitty version of Trunks. And a convoluted ass storyline. And then literally, like, GT is basically inversion of Dragon Ball, of the original Dragon Ball. But the original Dragon Ball is good, whereas GT is not. GT is terrible. But there's some cool fight scenes, and the new Super Saiyan forms are pretty cool. That's about it. That's about the only. But yeah, adaptation of shit like that just doesn't really work. Because, you know, half the time they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're just throwing some shit together. So, anyway, with that being said, I guess we're on to the final portion. Unless you guys have any other video game movies that you're like, man, they fucked that up.
Obviously, briefly talked about the Super Mario Brothers movie. I don't even know why that thing existed.
It existed because of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh.
No. It existed because Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it could have, like, here's the thing. It could have been, like, the Super Mario Brothers movie, like, here's the problem with the Super Mario Brothers movie. Compared to its source material, it's terrible. But if you take a step back and just watch it as a post-apocalyptic sci-fi movie, it's actually kind of fun. Like, as a kid, I hated it, but as an adult, I'm like, this is actually kind of fun.
You have to be on shrooms in order to get some of that.
like Mario making out with Big Bertha in order to get the piece of the meteorite in order to get back to his world. That's kind of fun. Their interpretation of Big Bertha, this big, huge black lady. I'm like, that's kind of funny. Let's see. There's actually some real Super Mario Brothers lore in, like, the actual factual lore in that movie that it is true. Like, the Mario Brothers name really are Mario, Mario, Luigi, Mario. That's why they're the Mario Brothers. Their last name is Mario. That is actually a fact. I thought that was kind of funny. And just how everyone's always trying to, like, Dinosaur Land is just everyone for themselves, because they descended from dinosaurs, so they're all, like, everyone for themselves. It's a dark and gritty world where everyone's just trying to do whatever they can to survive. That's kind of hilarious to me. Plus, I can't hate on Bob Hoskins. Because he did give us Eddie Valiant from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is a fucking great movie.
I wonder how many animals had to be sacrificed. How many humans and animals had to be sacrificed in order to get all those licenses? At the, like, near the end of the movie, where you see all the Disney characters, Warner Brothers characters.
Not really. What happened is that at that point, Warner Brothers and Disney and like all the cartoon companies were either going out of business or losing mind share. So they were like, we're going to have a big crossover in order to make ourselves relevant again, and it worked. It worked. Because remember, Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out right before the Disney Renaissance started, where Disney started getting back into animation and bringing their shit back together. And Warner Brothers animation was going downhill. Like, no one really gave a shit about, like, no new Looney Tunes shorts had come out for a while. And Flesher Cartoons was defunct, so, you know, it wasn't that bad. But then they fucked it up with the other stuff, but, you know. Anyway.
Seems like the Disney Golden Age was short-lived, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I mean,
doesn't seem to last very long.
I mean, the thing about Disney is that Disney is like ebb and flows, right? They'll have a moment where they're really cool, where everything's great with Disney, and then they start fucking up. It's like, come on, Disney. Come
I mean,
on,
you could
Disney.
argue that a sort of new Disney renaissance happened with the Marvel movies, but that started before Disney bought Marvel.
Yeah, and that wasn't Disney.
I
That's
don't know if that
Marvel.
counts.
Marvel owns
Yeah.
Disney, but that's not Disney. Like
Yeah.
people say, well, Pixar, Disney owns Pixar, but it's not Disney. Like proper Disney shit. Like the last time we had really good proper Disney themselves making something that people loved was the Golden Age. So you had like Little Mermaid, Lion King, Aladdin. That was it. That was the last time you actually had Disney, proper Disney Studios animating something where people were like, I give a fuck about this. So, tis what it is. Anyway, that's my
Point of view.
yeah, that's my point of view. That's my opinion.
So, anything else left in the bucket?
No, that's it. Anything you guys want to, except for unpopular opinion, but anything else you guys want to bring up before we talk about unpopular opinions?
I think we're good.
All right. So I guess it's me. Unpopular opinion. Anyone, an unpopular gaming opinion. Anything. Anything you want to get off your chest.
I got one though. So I'm not sure how popular this one is, so I'm gonna say this right now. It's so iffy topic, and it's how many how puzzle games are done in platformers. Sometimes it makes me wonder: are some people on shrooms when they do these things?
Could you repeat that?
Puzzles and platformers. I sometimes wonder if some people are on shrooms when they do them.
I mean, it depends.
Because it feels like somebody was trying to do Dungeons and Dragons with an action platformer, and it feels like they clearly were not 100% when they did that.
I could see that.
I mean, I bet you have a few of those moments in those platformers.
I mean, I'm not really against
Puzzles and platformers.
I mean, it depends on how it comes together. You know?
Yeah, I was saying that sometimes when you see a puzzle and a platformer, you sometimes get the feeling that somebody was not on air when they made that puzzle.
I mean, it depends. It depends on how it's designed. It depends on how it's designed. If it's some esoteric shit, like the way I look at it is this: a good puzzle should make you be puzzled, at first, and then as you solve it, you have that aha moment where you're like, ha ha, I got it. A shit puzzle is one where you get frustrated and then you give up and walk away, and then you have to look up the answer on an FAQ. That's a shit puzzle. A lot of shit puzzles in this world.
I think I came up with that one. I came up with that unpopular opinion because of a weird Dungeons and Dragons trap that is known as the time locked room.
Yeah, I hate puzzles like that.
Where you somehow self a trap and you start to panic trying to stop the clock when all you have to do is wait for the clock to finish and the door opens. And sorry if I ruined that for some dungeon masters.
Well, it is what it is. Do you have an unpopular opinion, Kenoshi? Or can I dive in?
You can go.
All right. My unpopular opinion is this. I think that... I know I've said that 2021 didn't look like it was going to be a good year for gaming. And I think that 2021, towards the tail end of it, is probably going to start picking up. I think we're not going to see the really, really great games come out until next year, though. 2022 looks like it's going to be a great year for gaming.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I thought 2020 was a mess for gaming.
No, that would have been the perfect time to come out with games, was because people were home and people wanted shit to play, but no one wanted to come out with anything. Everyone was all like, I'm afraid, and everyone's like, well, COVID-19. I was like, this isn't funny, but here's the kind of ironic thing for 2020. If what's it called? If CD Projekt Red had pushed back the release of Cyberpunk and put it off into 2020, they could have had enough time to make that game amazing, and they would have had a valid reason to push it back and do that. But they rushed themselves for no goddamn reason. Because
it was one thing a lot of people were waiting for, because 2020 was such a disappointing year for a lot of things, and they couldn't avoid it.
Well, they were like, we got to meet this deadline. I'm like, okay, that's cool and all, but is this game... And here's the thing, okay? There's been a lot of games where, like CD Projekt Red, every game that's come out from CD Projekt Red came out at first and was kind of like underwhelming, okay? And I know people are going to be like, what do you mean? Come on. The original Witcher was underwhelming. Witcher 2 was initially kind of underwhelming. Witcher 3... okay in the beginning, but got much better with later releases. So CD Projekt Red isn't a stranger to releasing a game and making it better after the fact. I'm not against that. But my problem is that they rushed that game out to meet an arbitrary deadline, and it's like, there's basic shit that should be in that game that's just not there. Like the ability to change how your character looks. I'm like, how the fuck are you going to make a game set in a modern age and yet you can't go to a barber and change how your character looks? That's weird.
Yeah.
That's just fucking weird.
weird, especially when you consider the games that allow you to do that in the first place that were
I mean,
of
like,
lesser quality than that.
Yeah.
like Fable allowed you to do that, and it came out damn near 20 years ago.
Every Fable game allowed you to do that. You can do that in a Saints Row game. You can do that in GTA. You can do that. Like, there's so many games where you can change how your character looks. Not in this game. Like, you could tell that they were rushing to get that game as stable as they could, and they were like, "We'll get it out. We'll meet our deadline. It'll sell. Like, we'll take a hit, but we'll fix it after the fact." And they weren't expecting the shit show they were gonna get, because that game was in such a bad state. And, you know, I mean, I feel sorry for the developers, but the people at the top who knew that game was in a bad state and put it out there to meet a fucking deadline, I don't feel sorry for them. I'm not saying people should be fired because this is a learning moment. But they should never do this shit again. This should be a one-time, they did it, never do it again. Like, actually put some time and money and, you know, take the time to do shit right the first time. And don't fuck up like that again. I sound like a parent talking to their kid. Don't do that shit again now.
Yeah.
Unless you want to get ass.
They learn from it. Hopefully people got screamed at loud enough that they'll remember the words that were said, so they don't do this again.
Don't do that shit again now. Now go sit down and do better. I sound like a parent. Do better. Don't do that shit again.
Maybe their parents took them in the back room and
took them to the woodshed. Took them to the woodshed. You gotta go to the woodshed.
All right, boy. Make sure to pick out a nice big switch.
Yeah, go get a switch. Go pick me a switch to whoop your ass with.
That better be good, or else I'll go look for it.
I won't do it again. I know you won't do it again. No! That's some psychological shit to make you get something to whoop your own ass with. That's terrible. Anyway, that's the end of the podcast. Rate, comment, share, subscribe, and
Hype responsibly.
That's right.
Some water.
Yes. And I am currently in the process of doing my re-review of Fallout New Vegas. So look forward to my re-review of that game. So that'll be coming out next week on the 30th of July. So look forward to that. That's going to be fun, I think, in my humble opinion. So with that being said, that's the end of this podcast. Rate, comment, subscribe. Peace, good night, and
Hype responsibly and stay hydrated.
That's for damn sure.